And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Twin City Trio podcast. My name is Cale Fleming. Alongside me, as always, my two hosts, Gavin Campbell and Tyson Snyder. Tyson, how's it going today?
It's going. Nose a little sniffly, but...
Me too. We're both getting sick over here. Gavin's the only one unscathed. Gav, what's going on today, my man?
Just trying to make it through the session, so you guys stay on your half, and I'll stay over here. Hopefully I can get through it.
We'll make her through. It's going to be kind of a longer episode today, ladies and gentlemen, so just keep that in mind. And before we started off today, I kind of like this, Tuesday, Friday rotation we've got cranking right now. How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Mondays suck for everybody.
Mondays are terrible. Mondays NFL officially concludes. So
true, yeah.
We might end up moving it to Tuesday. That's still up in the air yet. We don't know. But on today's rundown, we have the Chicago Blackhawks takes that I'm going to talk about very first to open things up. I haven't talked about hockey yet in the last couple of weeks. Moving off of that, we're going to talk about the Illinois Fighting Illini taking down Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. After that, Tyson's going to recap us our high school football playoffs of the week, and then we're going to move into our NFL weekend. After that, we have some NBA basketball, as well as the MLB Golden Glovers just got announced, and then we also have some guys, a Chicago Cub in the running for MVP in the National League. And also, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Illini game as well against Illinois Wesleyan. Thursday at 7 o'clock, they're taking on the Evansville Aces at the State Farm Center. But first, today, I'm going to kick it off with the Chicago Blackhawks today, boys. So for those of you that don't know, the Chicago Blackhawks have officially fired their entire coaching staff, including Coach Q. Coach Joel Quenneville, who's won 3 cups in the last 6 years with the Chicago Blackhawks. That's remarkable. But Tyson, as Hawks fans, you got to agree with me on this. That dynasty, the dynasty of Blackhawks hockey in the last 2 years has kind of just ended. I mean, you can feel it.
Oh, I would agree. It definitely, last year when we didn't make the playoffs, and the year before that when we got swept in the first round, it definitely felt like it was a major down spiral. And that's hard to say after 2 years, after you made the playoffs for 6 consecutive years and won 3 of those 6 years. Just to have one good season with a bad turnout and one bad season. It came as a little bit of a shock. Q, I loved watching that guy on the bench. He was a phenomenal coach. And I'm really going to miss seeing that mustache on the side. But, yeah, you could definitely feel it was coming to the end of an era. It wasn't quite the same Blackhawks team with the same coaching staff. So I'm glad to see they went a little bit of a younger route. And they picked up the Ice Hogs coach, Collision, who's a phenomenal young coach that's taken that Ice Hog team to higher, much better places. So,
well, Rockford, in all honesty, guys, is the AAA of the NHL. The Rockford Ice Hogs is the Iowa Cubs to the Cubs. But that being said, I'm glad you brought up the playoffs. Last season was the first time the Chicago Blackhawks have missed the postseason or the playoffs for the first time in over a decade.
Since before Q was there.
Yep, since before Quenneville took over. The first time we didn't make the playoffs in a decade. That being said, like you stated, the year before we got swept by Nashville, round 1, 4-0. That's not Blackhawks hockey at all. And also, the firing leading up to that, Joel Quenneville this season and his Chicago Blackhawks, were 6-6-1. That is not a start that the Chicago Blackhawks normally have. I've got some things I want to add real quick. Some transactions that have ensued over the last couple of seasons, including guys like David Seabrook, Brian Bickle, and Kruger. Them guys were overpaid. That's what kind of caused this. They overpaid those guys, in my all honesty. I've been known, me and Tyson are big Brian Bickle fans. He's one of the best enforcers in the league that we had to protect Patty Kane at the time. But what ensued by overpaying those guys is we traded Panarin, Teravainen, Shaw, Jarmelson, Dindahl, Hinstroza, Mott, and Hartman. So we had to unload the farm to overpay 3 guys.
Shawsey was my favorite player, too. That one hurt me deep.
Shaw was a good one. Shaw was 5'5", and he loved to scrap. He didn't care who it was. He could have took on Marian Lucic from Boston and beat him. That's how big of a... he's just like Jordan Tutu, just recently retired. Those Canada guys are nuts. Panarin, the bread man, we all know what he's capable of. Teuvo Teravainen, that guy was a stud. And then we signed guys like Manning and Kuntz that who are these guys?
Who?
Who are these guys? But yet we still have to fire Joel Quenneville because it's his fault. I've been preaching about this along with the Gary Paxton in Chicago with the Bulls fire Stan Bowman. This ain't Joe Quenneville's fault. This is Stan Bowman's fault. This is a GM. This is an ownership problem, not a head coaching problem. But the head coach is just the easiest person to blame it on. You know what I'm saying? I mean, is that a false statement for me to say?
No. I think you're absolutely right. A lot of times the blame falls on the coach for not being put in the right situation. But you can't really determine what situation you're going to be handed. It's not like he made that decision to get them guys or to get rid of certain guys. That's out of his call. The only coach in professional sports that gets that kind of say is Bill Belichick. That's it.
Yep.
He's the only one that gets to sit in the war room on draft day and decide what players he wants. He's the only one that gets free reign to do anything at all times. Other than that, there's not a single coach in professional sports that gets that. So to think that this is Q's fault is asinine because he doesn't make any of those decisions. Stan Bowman does, the general manager and the owner. So, yeah, a lot of he's the easiest one to pawn the blame off on. You're absolutely right.
At least they fired the entire coaching staff, though.
Right.
And not just Coach Q. Because if it's Coach Q's fault, then Stan Bowman's got a wire loose. I mean, that's pretty harsh to say, but that's just the honest-to-God truth in my head. But that's enough Blackhawks talk for today. That's about as... Also in the NHL, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I brought it up a couple of weeks ago, rather. Head coach for the LA Kings, John Stevens, he finally got Das Boot after their 4-7 start, 4-7-2. They're just old players, man. They're having the same problem Chicago is. Patrick Kane, Johnny Taves, even though they're still putting the puck in the back of the net, getting tucks left and right, they're not getting any younger. So they're going to have to make some big changes. The Hawks finally did it today, firing one of the most winningest coaches in NHL history in a decade, I'll say that, right behind Mike Babcock in the still active roster. But yeah, let's move on to some more topics that everybody understands. The University of Illinois took on the Minnesota Golden Gophers Saturday, Gavin. Beat them. You got a couple takes I want to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I want to say is congratulations to this team. This is a win that they really needed. And I know that was the first thing that you said after we messaged each other after the game, is they needed this. And I'm really glad that they were able to put up not just 40 but 50 points on a Big Ten opponent. I thought if we weren't able to do that against Rutgers, I didn't think it was going to happen at all. But one thing I need to say is Reggie Corbin is an absolute stud. He is the best player on this team, hands down. I don't think that that's arguable, and if you want to argue it to me, I'm not going to listen. This is the take that Cale was getting at is the research that I did before coming into the show today, and some I did last night as well as yesterday morning, is I'm looking at the statistics, and I understand that Illinois is a very, very bad program as of right now. But I truly believe that Reggie Corbin is the best running back in the Big Ten Conference as of right now.
So, I'm going to throw some stats real quick. With that being said, number one for 2018 this season is Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. On 208 attempts, he has over 1,363 yards. That's an average of 6.6 a carry. Number two is Karan Higdon out of Michigan. 173 attempts, 963 yards. He's averaging 5.6. Number three, Reggie Corbin from Illinois. 105 attempts, 952 yards, averaging 9.1. Number four, Miles Sanders from Penn State. 143 attempts, 848 yards, an average of 5.9 a carry. Number five, Devine. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher his last name. What do you think there?
It's Davina Zigbo.
Okay,
out of Nebraska.
116 attempts, 796 yards, 6.9 a carry. So those are the stats for you.
Right, and for anyone listening, you can see those stats, and the one thing that jumps out to you is 9.1 yards a carry. That's unheard of, especially in today's game. I don't think that we've had a running back average over, I think, 7 yards a carry in the past 20 years.
Reggie Bush.
If my memory serves me.
Oh, not Reggie Bush. Rashard Mendenhall.
Yeah, Mendenhall, right.
Why did I say Reggie Bush?
I was about to say he got the can from USC. Those stats are thrown out. We're not going to go back that far.
Rashard Mendenhall.
But yeah, Mendenhall. He was great, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Brings back good old days. But no, I just think Reggie Corbin. People are going to argue that obviously his yards per carry are going to be higher because he doesn't have as many carries and he's not getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Well, that's my point. Is the entire season he's not big getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage. If he gets 2-3 yards upfield and he sees a hole, I know Cale was talking about this before we started, he's gone. That breakaway speed is unlike anything I've seen from this Illinois team. He really stands out, and I'm really glad that we saw him not have one but two breakaway touchdowns against Minnesota, because this was a team that started off 3-0 in the beginning of the season, a team that I think all of us thought that were going to be a lot better than they are doing right now. But, man, the Reggie Corbin is just – he's blown me away, completely exceeded my expectations. And I really, really, truly think if he sticks around for another year, because I believe he's a junior this season. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he's a junior. And, man, next year, especially with the guys that we have coming in for the 2019 class, there's no reason why Illinois shouldn't win 6, 7, maybe even 8 games depending on the schedule.
I'm glad you brought up the class for next year because Fabian McCray, one of the big three out of Chicago, just decommitted from the U of I, which we talked about this. I asked Jake Stevenson, a reoccurring guest, about it. He said the same thing we did. Why a wide receiver would decommit from a Big Ten school such as the U of I with absolutely no receiving core and playing time right off the bat just baffles me.
Well, with a running back that can obviously grab the attention of the defense, and not only that, they can also that just opens you up. Let's just say it like that, because Reggie Bush is going to be gone after this season. MJ Rivers is going to step in, and you want a guy that's a pocket passer throwing you the football, right? Mm-hmm. Just like you said, it's 2 and 2 is not equaling 4 here. I'm not sure why he decommitted. It's just a head scratcher.
Not enough attention, probably. It could come down. Jake pointed this out to me as well. It could come down to the Under Armour voting as well. The Under Armour All-American team. He could have. Who knows? In my opinion, it feels like he used Liddyville for votes for that. That's what it comes down to. In my opinion, Jake did not specifically say that, but he feels like honestly that it could have a little bit to do with the Under Armour voting. That's my take. That he could have used Liddyville just for the voting portion.
One take I want to get from you guys before we move on real quick is Illinois' defense actually looked somewhat alive on Saturday.
They only let up 31 points.
Only.
That's a big feat for us.
Great compared to the last 5 weeks.
Well, isn't it, though?
Yeah, 66 to Maryland.
And let's also not forget the 2 turnovers that they caused. I thought that was probably the biggest takeaway, other than Reggie Corbin on that day, was that Illinois was actually able to get the ball back for their offense.
Yeah.
And the defense to get off the field. I just thought that was crazy. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it.
I agree with you 100%. The fact that this sounds absolutely, speaking of asinine, this is asinine. But I'm going to say that I'm impressed that we only let up 31 points in a Big Ten game. I'm impressed by that.
To a backup quarterback,
I mean, I get that. But at the same time, we let up 49 against Purdue. We let up 66 against Maryland. We've let up a lot of points this season, and only to let up 31, I'm impressed.
It's about 20 points in the right direction.
Yeah, we're finally making progression instead of regressing.
Well, careful. It's been 1 week. Don't get too excited about progression, but
I will fight you.
That is one step in the right direction. You are correct.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can go ahead and move on. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
I like it.
I was just really, really high on Reggie Corbin.
I want to say this. We'll talk about it Friday. The fact that Nebraska is still 19.5-point favorites.
That's ridiculous.
Baffling me. I do not understand that. If you're a bettor, I would bet on that spread because Illinois is definitely going to cover. I mean, honestly, think about that.
Nebraska, you said that against Purdue.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know.
Well, Purdue's also a better program than Nebraska.
Well, yeah, I'll give him that. That's a valid statement. As this season goes, I mean, they've taken down 2 ranked opponents. So the Big Ten as a whole, Purdue beat Iowa this weekend.
Right. Well, and Nebraska almost took down Ohio State. I say almost only counts in horseshoes, but let's just say it for what it is. It was a 1-score game.
They ran out of gas is what it looked like. But no, they about took that. That would have been awesome, too. I hate Ohio State.
Yeah. Only Ohio State likes Ohio State. Let's be honest.
Yep. It's like Cowboys fans. Only Cowboys fans like the Cowboys.
Well, unless you're me, I actually have a little place in my heart for the Cowboys, but I'm one of the few.
I mean, I don't know.
Let's just go ahead and move on, Tyson. I know we got to talk about the high school football playoffs for Illinois, so go ahead.
All right, so we're just going to do a quick recap of this past week, just the few games that we selected. Our first game in the 1A division was Argenta against Fisher. And all 3 of us picked Argenta. Pretty easy pick for that game. They took it pretty handily, 44-23 against Fisher. Moving on to 2A, we had Tuscola against Bismarck. This one could have been really close, could have been a blowout. It ended up being more towards the blowout end of things. Tuscola doubled up on Bismarck. We all picked Tuscola for this one. They beat them 42-21.
Are they back? Is this Tuscola High School? Are they back football-wise?
Did they leave?
Not sure.
I think they might have checked out in the second half of that St. Teresa game, but maybe St. Teresa is just that good. But I'll leave it for what it is.
Our third game up, we had Greenville against Pleasant Plains. This was one of those games that we picked this week. Two of the underdogs going up against each other that pulled out wins in the first week. Greenville ended up pulling this one. Cale is the only one that picked Greenville this week. They pulled out the win 26-14, so a pretty good win on their part. Our next game up was Effingham against Paris. I said I had picked against Effingham every time so far in the regular season, so I went with them this week. You two did not follow me in that direction. Effingham pulled out the win in this one 30-14, handing Paris the season-ending loss there. Our next game was Cahokia against Carbondale. Cale again went with Carbondale in this one, and they kind of got stomped. Cahokia won this game 33-0.
Oh, man.
Like me and Gavin talked about this after Carbondale's win against Central, where they only won by 3 points against a Central team that was probably shouldn't have been 7-2, but they did.
It's just coming from a weak conference. That's what it is. I mean,
Right.
Besides the Bloomington teams, the bottom half of the Big 12 is probably one of the weakest conferences in the state.
Which Central's 2 losses this season came from both Bloomington teams, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
They did.
Yep. Central West Normal West and Normal Community.
Right.
But after that win where they only won by 3 points, Gavin and I both said not very impressed, and we were absolutely correct in that as they went to Cahokia and got the stomping. But moving on to the 5A division, we picked Washington against Sacred Heart Griffin. We all thought Washington would win this one pretty handily, but we said it would be an incredibly good game. Sacred Heart Griffin, one of the best programs in the state. Washington did end up winning 23-21.
Woo!
Very, very close game. I bet it was a lot of fun to watch. But moving on to 6A, we had Lombard against East St. Louis. Lombard, one of the northwestern suburbs of Chicago. East St. Louis driving all the way up there. We all went with Lombard in this one, thinking that 6-hour drive would probably hurt East St. Louis a little bit. Well, it didn't. And I'm happy to say that. East St. Louis won 56-14.
Whoa.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As an underdog, a 15 going against a 2 seed.
That ain't it, Chief. That ain't it.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. What was the score?
56-14.
After all that driving they had to do. And then they went in there and just, like, we're going to take
I wonder
this.
if Lombard came out and said this is just going to be an easy win. They must have crapped the bed. There's no way.
Well, they only scored 14 points.
That's unbelievable. Well, good on them. Good.
Yeah,
That's a
I
great
don't
win.
think they knew what they were getting into.
No.
But East St. Louis is looking scary right now. Because in both of their games, they put up over 50 points, I believe. I'll have to fact check that. But they are putting up a lot of points, and they're not letting up very much. But moving on to our final division, the 8A division, we picked Chicago Brother Rice against OPRF, Oak Park River Forest. Chicago Brother Rice pulled this one out 27-17. A lot closer than you'd hope from your number 1 overall seed. But OPRF, I said, would be a very good team. Would put up a good fight against the Chicago Brother Rice program here. And they did. They made it close, but ultimately Brother Rice pulls this one out, and they will be moving on to the quarterfinals this weekend.
So what was the overall records this week?
Overall, I was 6-2. You guys were 5-3.
Dang it.
Tied me up after last week. I had a pretty good week last week, and that's
Gavin
rare.
was 7-1 last
That
week.
is rare. All right, let's go ahead and stick with football then. Let's go ahead and move on. Tyson, let's go ahead and get your matchup of the week from last week out of the way. You had the New Orleans Saints hosting the Los Angeles Rams. This was a game that I think every single sports station had as America's game of the week, and there was no reason why it shouldn't have been yours. I'm really glad you picked it. The Saints ended up pulling this one out 45-35. It was a shootout. Drew Brees, Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara. You had Brandon Cooks, Michael Thomas. I mean, everything was a factor in this game, but ultimately New Orleans came away with the win. What did you like?
Well, like I said, you said it right there. It was an absolute shootout. That was one of the reasons I picked this game this week. It was going to be intense. 45-35, that's a lot of points, especially in a professional football game, against two defenses that are supposed to be really good. The Saints with the rookie defensive player of the year, one of the best defenses last year, and the Rams, who have all those acquired talents, and including Aaron Donald, who they just paid, and all these high-paid guys, super great defensive guys. And we saw a combined 80 points put up on the scoreboard. So the fact that they can go up against these defenses and still put up points, it's great for both teams. They're putting up lots of points. The Rams are still averaging over 30 a game. They've had one game where they didn't score 30, and it was last week they put up 29 on Green Bay. But it was a super fun game to watch. I had no complaints with this game. I would have liked to see the Rams stay undefeated, but I'm glad the Saints got this win. Kind of diversify the NFC a little bit, so it's not just a stomping for the Rams all season. But yeah, it was a really good game.
How about it, Cale? I know you watched this game as well.
Best thing about it was Michael Thomas pulling that phone out from underneath of that goalpost and calling Joe Horn there. Who we calling, Cuzzy? That was the best part about it. No, what was it? The Saints were down, the Rams were down 35-17 at half.
Yep.
And then they came back and tied it, and then Drew Brees decided he was going to Drew Brees.
I've had enough of this.
So Drew Brees decided he was going to Drew Brees, and there he is. Won the game single by himself, honestly, because Alvin Kamara, he was kind of silent, but he was throwing the ball across the field left and right. And I'm glad you highlighted him, but at the same time, you can't I can't sit here and not talk about Ingram either. He was running the ball left and right, too, just punching it right up the middle. And then Kamara would come in, run it on the outside, get you a first down.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up Ingram because he's a guy that kind of gets forgotten about. Former Pro Bowler, let's not forget.
You're behind Alvin Kamara. That's kind of hard to not forget. English. That's a struggle. I mean, he's one of the top right behind Gurley, in my opinion.
No, he definitely is. I think he's a top 3 running back in the league. I think people would decide unanimously to.
He was hurt all last season, right? Or pretty much all last season.
Kamara.
Ingram
was, I believe, yes.
Hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's also had a Pro Bowl season, and I think that's very important that the Saints have 2 Pro Bowlers in the backfield that are able to just break off runs. I think Kamara obviously is the more talented back, especially when he's catching balls out of the backfield. I think that's where the X factor for him truly shines. But one thing before we move on to the other 2 games we have to talk about that I need to touch on, Michael Thomas had 211 yards in this game on 12 receptions.
Wow.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate what Michael Thomas has done? This is a guy I don't think gets enough attention, especially being in New Orleans. Drew Brees, it's usually his show. It's usually his team. That's all you hear about is what he's doing. But I think we have to understand that this is the first time in a long time that Drew Brees has had a all-pro, a Pro Bowler at tight end or receiver he's been throwing to ever since Jimmy Graham left.
Drew Brees is good, but when he has guys that like Michael Thomas around him, you can't stop him. And he's 7-1 now. Who did they lose? They lost their first game of the week, right? Or
to Ryan Fitzmagic.
To Fitzmagic. And then everybody thought, oh, God, Drew Brees is done. Well, no, Drew Brees is still going to Drew Brees. And he's on your fantasy team, and you know all about that.
Sure enough.
No, you can't discredit what Drew Brees can do with or without, good receivers. Now he's got a solid receiving core. You ain't going to be able to stop him.
Other than Patrick Mahomes, do you think Drew Brees should be a favorite for MVP this season?
It's definitely in discussion. Stat-wise, he's not in the conversation stat-wise. He's behind Mahomes. A bunch of the younger guys that are like 800 yards up on him in passing yardage. But he's like 5th or 6th in most of the stats this year. But his team's 7-1, so can you really complain about that? So, yeah, I think he absolutely should be in conversation this year. There's no doubts about that. We'll have to see how the playoffs kind of turn out. But I think he can carry this team to great places this year. And he should absolutely be at least in the conversation.
Last question I want to ask you is this Rams defense, they've got Marcus Peters, Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Darnold, many others. Fowler from Jacksonville
they just got, yeah.
So they have a solid defensive line. They have a solid secondary. Their linebackers are strong. What's the deal? They're letting up 45 points. They let up a bunch of points last week to Green Bay. The good offenses, they're having this problem stopping. And they saw that with Aaron Rodgers in the lackluster offense. So are they going to be able to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team or this Saints team when the playoffs come around?
The Saints, I think they can figure things out and pull it back against the Saints. I wouldn't worry too much about this. We saw this. This is a potential NFC Championship matchup this year. Easy. So, yeah, it's very possible they'll play the Saints again, and I think it's very possible they'll beat the Saints again. So I'm not too worried about that right now. The Chiefs, on the other hand, that is scary because the Chiefs' offense can absolutely tear up a defense that has given up. The Rams are letting up 22.2 points a game right now, which seems a little high for all those names that you just named off, for having the best defensive linemen in the world, for having 2 of the best young cornerbacks in the world, to having all these guys, to having Ndamukong Suh, who was the best defensive lineman a couple years ago. So having all this talent, still letting up 200 points a game, letting up 370 yards a game.
200 points.
Sorry, 22 points.
Whoa.
Yeah, and letting up 370 yards a game. That's a lot against this defense that's supposed to be phenomenal.
Well, and let's also keep in mind that this is the most points the league has averaged up to this point in time ever.
Yeah.
League average for points per game by an average team was around 21 points, and I think that's been inflated a little bit because of this season. So I still think they have a slightly above average defense. Let's also not forget Aqib Talib has missed the past few weeks. He's been on IR. And Marcus Peters, I don't believe, is 100% healthy. He doesn't look like himself out there in the playing the corner position, especially when he's going up against the number one receiver on the other team, and they're 100% healthy.
Yeah,
Michael Thomas is giving him a lot of problems.
But Michael Thomas is also a giant. But
yeah, he's like 6'4", and Peters is 5'11". But
yeah, but let's go ahead and move on to the second game here. Cale, our Chicago Bears took it to the Buffalo Bills. I believe they're 5-3. Yes, absolutely. Mitchell Trubisky, he didn't really have to do much on Sunday because the defense scored a couple times. Had Eddie Jackson.
Leonard Floyd.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd had the pick six off of Kyle Fuller's. I think he knocked the ball up in the air out of Calvin Benjamin's hand.
Yep.
And then there was also the fumble recovery from Adrian Amos and Eddie Jackson for a score. So there's 14 of your 41 points right there from your defense. Mitchell Trubisky, 12 of 20, 135 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception that I think there was some miscommunication going on the field because there was not a receiver in sight.
No, that pick he threw somebody almost up.
But yeah, I just thought this game was – the Bears needed this win, especially after coming out sluggish against the New York Jets. Khalil Mack and Allen Robinson were also not active in this one. But what were your thoughts on this game?
We don't need Allen Robinson. I like him. Miller, and I like Gabriel.
Yeah, Miller's awesome.
Miller's a stud, and we took him late in the draft this year. Taylor Gabriel can catch the ball. He can run slant routes, but the problem is unlike Robinson, he's a little on the shorter end.
Yeah.
So, but Robinson, being an athletic giant like Thomas, like he is, that's where we need Robinson because he's just a high target that Trubisky can throw over the top of. One thing I'm going to talk about is yes, even though he's thrown a pick, Mitchell Trubisky is completely growing on me. From last season, I hated him to the start of this season. Still couldn't stand him, but right now maybe it's because he's finally got it figured out. Mitch is just growing on me as a QB, as a player, as a human. What he does on and off the field is amazing. Problem is, if we didn't beat this Bills team 41-9, I was going to be a little concerned. If Khalil Mack was out there, it'd have been 41-0 in my opinion. Probably would have been a lot more in our favor.
You said if they didn't win by 4 touchdowns, you were going to be pissed.
Yeah,
So-
that is true. I said that. I'm glad we did. But that being said, Khalil Mack's going to be back next week, and by God, we're going to need him.
Absolutely. One thing I want to touch on real quick, you said Taylor Gabriel. Yeah, he's a deep threat because he can turn on the Jets, and we saw that with the Atlanta Falcons. I was talking to Chris Hopkins, a recurring guest that we've had a few times on the show. He was talking to me last night about how Taylor Gabriel is actually leading the Chicago Bears in receiving yards and receptions this season.
I don't want to discredit Trey Burton either.
Absolutely.
He's done a lot for Trubisky, too.
Yeah, and he's been a big red zone threat as
He's
well.
a reliable target in that red zone.
And having that championship experience with the Eagles from last year, I think, really helps this team. Mitchell Trubisky, as much as I love him, I think a question has to be asked, and maybe Tyson can attest to this. Is he a system quarterback? Is this a product of Matt Nagy and the Chicago Bears offense?
I don't know if you can call him a system quarterback because I don't think he's just plug and play in any system. I think he is Matt Nagy's quarterback, and I think him and Matt Nagy just have a connection. They work very well together. I don't think he could go anywhere and just succeed. Not like Tom Brady. You plug him in, he succeeds. But I think he is Matt Nagy's quarterback. I think that's one of the reasons Matt Nagy wanted to come to Chicago is because he saw Trubisky here. He saw the young talent, and he knew what he could do with this clay that he can mold. And I think Matt Nagy saw that, and I think he's definitely the coach's quarterback. I don't know if you can call him a system quarterback because we've seen how it does and does not work. He's had really good days. He's had really bad days. So, but I think he's the coach's quarterback, and I think him and the coach just get along really well, and they're on the same page. They know what to call. They know how each other thinks. So it's working out well in that aspect.
I agree with you on that 100% because you look at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Look at Sean McVay, Jared Goff. Those two guys, McVay and Andy Reid, make Mahomes and Goff great. Mitchell Trubisky, as you stated all season and explained to me, Trubisky is athletic. Matt Nagy doesn't necessarily what McVay and Goff do is completely different than what Nagy and Trubisky does. Trubisky has the athleticism as to where I think that Jared Goff does not. I'm not saying he's not an athlete because obviously he's an NFL quarterback. But I feel like Trubisky's 3 times the athlete that Jared Goff is. So Nagy just brings out, and they think on the same page, and brings out Trubisky's best side is what I think, even though he's not necessarily a system quarterback because Trubisky goes anywhere, like Tyson said. I don't think he's as good as he is with Nagy.
Now, see, I would agree with what both of you said, but I wanted to ask someone who wasn't biased towards this team. I wanted to get an unbiased perspective and make sure that me and Cale were pretty much on the same page with our opinion. But let's go ahead and segue into the last game here. The Tennessee Titans traveled to Jerry World in Dallas to take on the Cowboys, and this was actually a very surprising game here. The Titans went in to AT&T Stadium and pretty much trounced the Cowboys 28-14. What happened?
Yikes.
Yikes.
I really don't even know what to say. They got so fed up, they got so infatuated with this Amari Cooper signing that's all they wanted to do. Dak definitely regressed this week. He had some very questionable moments. It is 3rd and 8, and I'm going to drop back 10 yards, roll to my right, just kidding, spin around to my left, and take a sack. So he got sacked several times. That it wasn't the offensive line's fault. He was holding the ball way too long. He fumbled when he was. There was a lot that went wrong this week. Scott Linehan again can't figure out his play calling. Amari Cooper was everything it lived up to be. They got the ball to him.
Scored on a second drive.
He's got his first touchdown with the Cowboys in his first game. 5 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. Can't really complain about that. I'm not expecting much more yardage than that because Dak can't throw much more yardage than that. But Scott Linehan, again, Zeke didn't reach 20 carries. I just don't understand how we're still talking about this. I feel like that question's been done and answered enough. And I don't know why the answer keeps coming back the opposite of what it should be. So, once again, Scott Linehan, I'm questioning him again. Jerry came out and said there won't be any midseason coaching changes after the game yesterday.
Which Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and former Cowboys did not agree with whatsoever.
Yeah, Troy Aikman came out and said there is something wrong with the system here. You have to attack this at its roots, and it's not the players that... There's something wrong in the coaching staff, in the organization itself that you need to tear down and restart from because it's not working. So unless there's a major turnaround in the second half of the season, in the next 8 games, I don't see why there shouldn't be a complete overhaul.
Bring in Todd Haley. He's a lightning rod of a human being.
Yep.
Well, you're not wrong. He is on the market, but Jerry does what Jerry does.
Oh, Todd Haley and Jerry Jones would get along perfect together. That.
See, I think they would, but we know how Jerry Jones can be with his executive decision making, and we'll see if he's able to.
He likes the power.
Well, what's intriguing to me is that he pulled it.
Deny that.
Yeah, but he pulled the trigger on Amari Cooper, which makes me think that possibly he could. And actually, speaking of former Cowboys, real quick, now that we're on the subject, can we just talk about Des Bryant taking a meeting with the New Orleans Saints?
Oh, they're working him out. Not just meeting. They're
right. Can we just take a second to understand why the Cowboys are not interested in taking Des Bryant back?
They have come out and said repeatedly Des wasn't open to the idea at all after he got cut. I would love to see him as a Cowboy again, but they have both since come out and said it's probably not in the best for either party in this situation. Yeah, I would love to see him back, but there's just not a whole lot that the Cowboys can do for him anymore, and there's not a lot he can do for the Cowboys. We've seen what he can do. We know what he can do, and we got rid of him in the first place anyway. But there's some speculation that the Saints aren't actually giving him a legit workout. They're just working him out to work him out. He's not a serious contender for any kind of spot right now. A lot of teams throughout the year will work out older receivers, veteran guys, young guys that didn't quite make a squad. They'll just come and work them out so they can update their list. Okay, if we have to get someone, this guy's on the top of our list now because we worked him out a couple weeks ago and he looked really good. Or this guy was good. We'll see if we can't get him. He's not quite on the top of our list, whatever. But there's some speculation that they're going around just trying to update their list. They're working out Des Bryant. They're working out Brandon Marshall. They're working out another guy. I can't remember his name. But I think Des makes an improvement to just about any team in the National League right now. He definitely really would help the Saints too. They just put what's his face on injured reserve. Why can't I remember?
I can't remember his name either, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Ted Ginn Jr. They put Ted Ginn on injured reserve. He is done for at least a while with a knee injury, I believe. But their receiving core is severely depleted. They've got Michael Thomas, and they've got another one of their young guys has 12 receptions on the season. And those are their only 2 healthy wide receivers. Coming in at second and third on the list, that young guy, he's 4th on the list for healthy receivers right now. Michael Thomas is clearly number 1, and then second on your list is Alvin Kamara, your running back, has the second most receptions on the team.
Imagine adding Des Bryant to that.
Right.
That's what I don't understand is the Cowboys would cut him, and then you see a team like New Orleans who has a weak, or I should say not weak, but short wide receiver core, and you would let him go be the second option for that team? That just blows my mind.
Des Bryant's Drew Brees' second option.
Right. And this is what gets me. The people that say this wouldn't work out for the Saints is because of Des Bryant's antics or whatever happened in Dallas. But let's not forget Josh Gordon was traded from Cleveland to New England with a quarterback like Tom Brady and turned him into a really good receiver.
Flash Gordon, cuz.
Flash Gordon was already a really good receiver, but he turned him into more of a system receiver.
Right, turned his career around.
Yes,
is what I was trying to say. He's already, I think, the most talented receiver in the league. Personally, he just could never keep it together. If that makes sense.
Maybe.
I think Des Bryant is a little stronger headed than Josh Gordon is. I think he's got a lot more ego. He's got a lot more personality. Josh Gordon just like the weeds. Des Bryant is a very strong character. And I think that would clash a lot with Sean Payton and Drew Brees.
See, that's where I think that Drew Brees could rein him in. I think that he could calm him down and make him believe in what they're doing.
Maybe not necessarily calm him down. What about hone him? Point his ego in the right way.
I would agree with that. I don't think anyone will ever get Des to be quiet.
Right.
That won't happen. No one will ever get him to calm down. But I think you can help him channel that energy. Just like OBJ's having that problem. He can't channel his energy into the right thing. He's got too much, so he starts kissing nets and punching heaters and stuff. I don't know. But I think with Des, you can channel that energy. I just don't know if Sean Payton and Drew Brees is the right duo to help him with that.
For sure. I mean, it makes sense. I agree with
it. Does. It just makes me think.
Yeah,
like
what
what could be. Because I think for a lot of people, they see Terrell Owens, Chad Johnson, and then the next one on that list is Des Bryant.
Ocho Cinco.
Well, whatever. He's Chad Johnson to me.
Yeah. Imagine Des Bryant to the Patriots.
Oh no!
We've already seen them change it with Josh Gordon. Imagine if they could get Des Bryant. When was the last time Tom Brady had a number 1 wide receiver?
Randy Moss.
Yeah, Randy Moss. Now imagine he's got 2. Josh Gordon, Des Bryant.
Well, I would even argue when Chad Johnson went to, or Ocho Cinco for Cale and anyone else out there, when Chad Johnson went there for half a season, I think that could have been considered as a number 1 receiver.
Yes, but he was on the really work out.
Right, he was on the down spiral of his career. But I think the last true number 1 receiver was Randy Moss, and we saw what happened. That's one of the greatest seasons ever.
As a whole. I cannot stand New England, period.
Well, I can't either.
I do not want Tom Brady to have 2 more options he has. 2 number 1s. No, I don't want to think about it. Get that imagery out of my head.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Cale. We'll go ahead and switch sports altogether for you. We'll go ahead and move in to the NBA.
College basketball starts tonight.
All right, well, let's talk about professional basketball for a minute. We'll talk about your Indiana Pacers. They beat the Boston Celtics on Saturday night, 102-101.
Lost to Houston last night.
Right, so we're talking about Saturday, but the Houston game was still good. But Victor Oladipo hit the game-winning three-pointer on the Celtics to take down supposedly the number 1 team in the East, at least as far as power rankings go. But he's shaking his head over there. Cale, what did you think about Saturday and last night?
Started off to answer that question. I love Boston because I like Scary Terry and Jason Tatum. Kyrie is still a guy's a place in my heart because he left LeBron and showed that he can be good without LeBron. But they are not the top team in the East. Toronto has proven that they are. As of right now, Milwaukee's probably a close second.
I told you so.
10-1, you can't beat that. We're not going to talk about it, so I'm going to say it. That being said, Vic, man, what a stud. He has 20-plus points in 10 straight games. That dude's a superstar. All-star, whatever you want to call him. He's found his home in Indianapolis. Because if you think about it in Orlando, yeah, he was great in Orlando. He was good in OKC. But coming to Indiana, his hometown, not his hometown, but his home, because he played college basketball, he's a Hoosier.
Go Hoosiers.
So he is a Hoosier. Think about this. He's playing basketball for the Indiana Pacers right now. Vic, though, hitting that game winner, I saw it coming. It was the writing was on the wall. Vic loves to shine in these big moments, and he proved that again last night because he did not let James Harden come into Indianapolis and control his court. He didn't let Kyrie come in and control his court. That being said, Oladipo anywhere is a superstar, especially Indiana, because that's the only. I mean, honestly, he's their best scorer, right behind Boyan. Sabonis is a stud, but no, Oladipo is arguably the second best player in the league. In the East, second best player in the East.
Oh,
arguably,
okay.
The second best in the East.
I'll let that
I'm
slide.
My bias in that.
Yeah, I know, and I'll let that slide. But I had him at number 3 in the East as of right now because I don't understand how you put him ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Biases are included.
Or you put him ahead of Kawhi Leonard, who has missed 3 games.
Kawhi Leonard's number 1, Vic's 2.
Can you put him above Kyrie?
Yeah,
as of right now, I think so.
As of right now, okay.
All time, no, you can't put him above Kyrie.
Oh, absolutely not.
But the way that Vic is playing right now, Vic would take it to the house against Kyrie right now. And if you think about it, they play kind of the same style of game. If you look at it, they're both phenomenal passers. They both can attack the rim. It's just that Oladipo can jump out of the ceiling to where Kyrie can't throw it down.
Well, he can't throw it down, but no one has handles like Kyrie Irving in the league right now.
Vic's close. Vic's got him. He's there.
He has them, but no one has
Chris
handles
Paul
like Irving.
Skates like multiple times.
Well, Chris Paul is also entering the retirement home here in a couple years.
Well, that's fine. Chris Paul's still one of the greats of of our generation.
Well, yes, he is, but Chris Paul, he hasn't been a good defender for the past couple years. I mean, he's been okay, but when was the last time he made an all-defensive team?
And then he put Giannis on skates once, too.
Giannis is also 7 feet tall and has stilts for legs.
All right, that's fine. I can't wait till we play Toronto and he puts Kawhi on skates at least once.
Oh, I can't wait either. I can't wait either.
No, in all honesty, Gavin, that's going to be a good matchup.
No, that's going to be the best one. Well, I'm more so looking forward to the other 3 matchups we have with Boston.
Because honestly, Kawhi's going to have to guard Vic, right?
More than likely. If not, Lowry will.
Okay. But honestly, you got your best defender on your best offensive player right there. Because honestly, you cannot argue that Vic is the offense of the Indianapolis Pacers, even though Sabonis,
he is.
Sabonis does great things, getting boards and second chance.
You said it yourself. He's got 6 or 7 straight games with 20-plus points.
10 plus.
10. There you go. So that tells you it right there.
So
and sometimes it's not enough.
I don't get that. Miles Turner. This is the conversation we had a couple of days ago. Miles Turner has to step up. Sabonis is doing great off of the bench. Start him over Turner right now.
I would start Sabonis.
That's all I'm going to say about that. I just cannot wait until Kawhi and Vic match up this season.
Yeah, and it'll happen, I believe they play in December sometime, and I can't remember what the exact day is.
Because the Pacers play the 76ers Wednesday, tomorrow.
Yes, which I think is very capable of winning that game as well.
I feel like the Pacers are going to take it to Philly because they are struggling.
Well, Philly, it was surprising. That was a team that you were high on coming into the season.
Markelle Fultz, did you see him dig that three-pointer off of the rim the other night? Oh, man.
That was...
They're struggling.
It makes you wonder why they traded up for the number 1 pick if they really knew what they were getting.
Markelle Fultz coming into the draft, though, you got to look at it this way, was the best player in that draft.
He was, but you had to look at the conference in which he played in, playing at Washington.
I understand that. I get that 100%. But statistically wise, stats wise, he was the best player.
Yeah, you can't argue that. Well, then in Lonzo Ball going 2nd overall, I didn't know Brandon Tatum. Or not Brandon Tatum, what is it? Jason Tatum, excuse me. He was the best player in that draft, and I think he is the best player from that draft.
Was that the Donovan Mitchell draft, too?
Yeah.
Because he went,
13th. All the way down to 13th. That was the steal of the draft out of Louisville.
Jason Tatum went lower than Donovan Mitchell went lower than Markelle Fultz, and he went higher than Jason Tatum. I have that all backwards, but you get what I'm trying to say.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I tell you what, let's just go ahead and leave it for what it is. We can talk about the last year's draft class another day. Let's go ahead and move on to the other two games.
You're turning me into an NBA guy.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that. You turned me into a hockey fan, man. Maybe we can find some mutual ground. Right. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the Toronto Raptors. They defeated the Utah Jazz and the Los Angeles Lakers without their best player, Kawhi Leonard, in the past 3 days. Moved to 10-1, like Cale alluded to earlier, on the season. This has been the most surprising thing to me is how good the Raptors are. Obviously traded for Kawhi Leonard, got rid of DeMar DeRozan, and now you also are without Kawhi Leonard. And Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka have been leading this crew. I think OG Anunoby has done a really good job. One thing I want to touch on, Kyle Lowry is leading the league in assists with 11.5 right now through the first 11 games.
That's impressive.
Let's leave that for what it is. That's all-star numbers in itself. He's averaging 16 points.
He likes to shoot, right?
Yeah, he's shooting over 40% from three.
So not only is he dishing the ball, he's still shooting.
Right, and he's not averaging 20 points, 18 points like he has been. It's come down a little bit. He's averaging 16, but these assists, I mean, he looks like Chris Paul out there right now, at least in the Eastern Conference. But what I thought was most impressive was their defense against Los Angeles Sunday night when they held them to 10 points. 10 points in the first quarter. That was incredible to me.
The three of us in this room were so high on the Lakers because I know I told you, and I think you agree with me on this, is that this is the first time I've ever been excited to watch Lakers basketball. What is going on?
In a long time.
I've never said that in my entire life.
Right.
I was excited to see what LeBron was going to do with this crew. Well, he's losing. Like, I don't get it. I seriously don't understand what's going on.
LeBron's literally made it work with anything.
Except this,
and I don't understand how it's not working because he's had more talent on this team than he's had on a lot of other teams that he's been on.
Adding Rajon Rondo with Kyle Kuzma, I mean, that's better than what he had last year minus K-Love.
Right.
Who is hurt right now, on top of that.
Right.
Well, this is what blows my mind is the Lakers have 4 wins right now, 6 losses, and LeBron's still averaging 26 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 8 assists.
He's going to have to average 35 a game.
That's what it's seeming like right now. And on top of that, his defensive efficiency has more than doubled from last season, although he was one of the worst in the league last year defensively, at least in win shares. He's now in the top half of the league in terms of defensive efficiency, and they're still losing. It does not add up.
Lonzo, we talked about it, I think, this summer. They don't have anybody that can shoot. They're in the same situation as Philly.
Right.
LeBron, yes, he can shoot threes, but his
it's him and Kuzma. That's it.
That's the only offense they have. I know Rondo can't shoot, but he can pass.
He sure
and
can.
You can see that because he's dishing the ball to LeBron, who's averaging 23 points a game. You just said, right?
27
points a game.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. Kuzma can shoot ball. I liked that kid at all. And I don't necessarily dislike Lonzo Ball. I dislike his dad.
Right.
Lonzo Ball, I feel like, is a good human being, but I cannot stand his dad. Who else? KCP. He's not a terrible guy. Lance Stevenson.
But he hasn't showed up. Lance, this is what I don't understand, is when Lance Stevenson plays more than 20 minutes a game, they win. He gets 12, 16, 20 points, and they win.
He's a personality, but he's a difference maker.
Exactly. We saw it in the game. Granted, it was against the Phoenix Suns. When the Lakers were down by 7 points in the fourth quarter, guess who hit 2 3-pointers and hit the game-leading assist in the fourth? It was Lance Stevenson. Back-to-back 3-pointers. He had the cross-court pass to LeBron James for the easy layup. They went up by 2.
That connection's really working out. I cannot believe that. Can you?
No one saw that.
I cannot believe that the LeBron whisperer is actually playing well with LeBron.
But then the very next game, Lance will play 4 minutes, have 2 points, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, and he'll sit him on the bench.
Maybe that's why Magic's all in an upward, and they proved that against the loss to Toronto. He went into that locker room and just absolutely ripped.
Oh, and we saw him go after Coach Walton. Yeah,
I mean, rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Well, and real quick, okay, let's move on to the last game here. Speaking of dysfunction in the locker room, let's talk about another Eastern Conference team here. I know it's a lot of Eastern Conference stuff going on. Let's talk about the Washington Wizards. Is it time to blow it up? Is it time to blow this roster up? They're at a 2-7 start. Scotty Brooks coming over from Oklahoma City 3 years ago. Coach Westbrook, Durant, Harden, Ibaka. What is going on in Washington? Do they need to move one of their superstars?
I just want to know where John Wall's at.
APB.
I don't get it.
APB.
I don't get it.
He's done all right in fantasy for me.
Yeah, because that's all he's got. But obviously, where's Brad Beal?
Yeah.
Where's Brad Beal? Where's Dwight Howard, we're Superman. He's hurt. I get it. He's hurt.
He's had one game back, and first game back he had 10 points and 10 rebounds.
So okay, I'll agree with that. For a big man in today's league, that's okay.
Dwight will get you 10 boards. What I want to know is this dysfunction we see between John Wall and Bradley Beal, and I would even throw Kelly Oubre, Otto Porter, all these guys that have great wings and they have great guards, but they can't seem to put it together.
And then they're getting booed at halftime.
At halftime, not even after the game. At halftime,
because they let up almost 44 points they let up 23 points to OKC in the second quarter or something like that.
Yeah, and halfway through the second quarter. Yeah, it was.
I don't know. Is it time to blow things up in Washington? Yes.
Well, that was the game that Russell Westbrook went out of, and Paul George took over.
Yeah.
So you lose one superstar, and you still can't stop him. John Wall was guarding Raymond Felton, I think. And you're going to tell me he can't put up points in the second quarter against Raymond Felton? This just blows my mind.
No, it's 2-7 start to Washington. I had them in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and this is a team that usually makes 4, 5, 6 seed in the playoffs, and they have the past 3 years.
Team. They're not good by any means, but they're not horrible.
No, they're not. And I think what it comes down to is because John Wall is making almost $40 million, and he will be making over $40 million next year on his salary. You're going to have to eat that. You're going to need to move Bradley Beal and try to get back a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're going to have to.
That's it. Or try to get some assets that aren't, I don't know, just Bradley Beal and John Wall. They just seem to be too competitive with each other. Like people want to know whose team it is, and it's Bradley's team. Well, it's John's team. They have never had this synergy that they need to be successful.
I feel like there's some of that that goes on in OKC too.
Well, yeah, I believe so too, but I think that's a story for a different day. I tell you what.
Can we talk about? We were talking about the Lakers real quick.
Yes, let's go back to it. Yeah,
they just signed Tyson Chandler.
Yes, they did.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that, man.
Yeah, even though he's 36 years old, I think that this is a guy who's been in Phoenix playing with a bunch of young guys. I think he's going to be excited to also play with the young guys in Los Angeles, but also play with LeBron James.
He's playing with LeBron.
This is a guy who's a part of that Mavericks team that beat LeBron's Heat in 2011.
Yeah.
So he's got that championship experience. Also played with Dirk, Jason Terry. All those guys that was on that Dallas team. That was a hell of a team.
Jason Kidd, was he on that team too?
Yeah, I believe so. Because he won his ring.
Career,
yeah.
Right?
Because then he went to New York with Tyson Chandler afterwards as well.
Tyson Chandler's one of my favorites in the league.
Yeah, he
has been for a long time. He's just a great dude.
He's a great locker room guy. Good player. Not so much anymore, but I still think he's a great role player. Yeah. But let's go ahead and move on. We got to talk about the MLB. The Golden Glove Awards were announced. And I know, Cale, you got some information on that, so let's hear it.
This is going to be pretty quick. I'm just going to run through them.
Sure.
American League, we're going to start there because nobody cares about it in this room but Gavin.
Come on, man. Give me a little respect.
Yeah, I got you. That's why we're talking about it first. Dallas Keuchel, pitcher. I'm going to go in order, 1 through 9.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Pitcher, Dallas Keuchel, Houston Astros. That's his 4th. Corey Kluber and Marshiro Tanaka were in the other finalists. Catcher, Salvador Perez for the Royals. No surprise there. That's his 5th time. 5th Gold Glove. Yan Gomes from the Indians and Martin Milando from the Astros, who also has one. First base, Matt Olson from the Athletics. Can't blame him there. That Athletics team turned their season around. That is his 1st Gold Glove of his career. Ian Kinsler, second base, Red Sox. I'm going to be saying this team a lot. That's his 2nd. Jed Lowry from the A's was also in the running, as long as Odor from the Rangers. Andrelton Simmons from the Angels, shortstop in the American League. It's his 4th Gold Glove. Francisco Lindor, who surprises me in not winning it. I really thought Francisco Lindor was going to. Was also in the running. Matt Chapman, 3rd base for the Athletics. That's his 1st one. Alex Bregman and Jose Ramirez. I feel like that could have went any one of them 3 ways, to be real honest. Alex Gordon plays left field for the Royals. That's his 6th Gold Glove. I knew he was going to win that. He wins it every year. Sorry, Benny Biceps, Andrew Benintendi, and Brett Gardner. You're not going to win when he's in the league. Center field, I really agree with this. Jackie Bradley Jr. over Mike Trout. Mike Trout does not have a Gold Glove, though. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, can we talk about that?
Look at how many MVPs he has.
He's a good defensive player. He's not
the
got a
best hose for
defensive player.
He's got a hose for an arm, and I agree with you. He's a good defensive player. He will get you outs, routine outs, and he'll catch some balls that shouldn't be caught. He's not. Right. He's not Jason Hayward, though. I'll give him. I'm not going to.
But he's not routinely making those kinds of plays.
No. That's why he doesn't have a Gold Glove.
Right.
But at the plate, he can do phenomenal things. Jackie Bradley Jr. That's his first Gold Glove.
But that's what I love about the Gold Gloves is it's about defense.
Yep.
Nothing's ever about defense, but Gold Gloves are about defense.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Adam Engel, shout out White Sox. He was a finalist. Good for him. That White Sox organization, they may make some power moves this offseason.
Yeah, I think that they're not on a lot of people's radar, but I think they're looking to be aggressive. And
with that new TV deal they just signed, they have a lot of money, and they also need to cut into their international signing tax and just pay a little more in the luxury and lose a draft pick and just sign some players.
That and when they bring up all their guys from the system, I think this team could be a lot better than people think going into next year.
Are they a 100-win team? No. Are they a
No,
100-win
no.
team in 3 years?
Absolutely.
Mookie Betts rounded up right field. That's his third Gold Glove. Kyle Calhoun from the Angels has one. And then Aaron Judge, I'm glad he didn't win it because I cannot stand Aaron Judge. So that wraps up your our AL. National League, Zach Greinke from the Diamondbacks, 5 Gold Glovers. That's unreal. Another guy, Yachty. Yachty, that's number 9. He's not going to beat you're not going to beat him except for Posey, maybe. He may have a chance. He was in the finals. And then Manny Pena from the Brewers was in there as well. First base, National League, we have 2. That's how good it was. Freddie Freeman and guess who? Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo is his second. Freddie Freeman, that's his first.
I didn't know you could have multiple winners.
Oh, yeah, you can have 2. Because if you're going to tie it, they're just going to give it to both of them. Mm-hmm. Joey Votto. It's another player I don't like at all because he was going to threaten to leave $12 million on the table mid-season and retire because he wasn't hitting the ball. 2 weeks later, he starts hitting it, so I knew that wasn't going to happen. DJ LeMahieu, second base, that's his third for the Rockies. Javi in the finals. There's no reason why Javier Baez shouldn't have won a Gold Glove. Colton Wong for the Cardinals was also.
Did Javi even have an error on the season? Yeah. This guy's nuts. How did he not win it?
He had 3 errors, I think, total. But still 3 errors in 162 games.
I can almost count that on my hand. That's ridiculous.
Shortstop for the Diamondbacks, Nick Ahmed. That's his first one. Brandon Crawford from the Giants and Freddie Galvis from the Padres were in the running. Third base, no surprise, Nolan Arenado. That's his 6th. And then left field, Corey Dickerson from the Pirates. I would have given this one to Christian Yelich over Corey Dickerson. That's my 100% honest opinion.
But Christian Yelich didn't really come on until the second half of the season.
First
half of the season, I can't even remember hearing his name hardly.
No. It's just baseball, man. You get hot, and then you stay hot. And Yelich stayed hot the second half of the year, got hot at the right time. We saw it with the playoff push they made.
Well, and you got to think that that's good that they went back and looked at the whole season, and they don't do because the NBA does this too often, where they look at the back half of the season, and that's where you get the award.
That's one thing I will praise the MLB for. It is from game 1 to game 162 all season, which is why I don't understand why Javi's not a Gold Glover. Ender Encarte from the Braves, another. No question, no doubter. That's his third. Lorenzo Cain and Billy Hamilton. Billy Hamilton, of all people, were finalists. And then Nick Markakis. That's his third. Jason Hayward's got 5. And then John Jay from the D-backs, also former Cub. And 2 former Cubs, current Cub, and former Cardinals were in the running. Nick Markakis was his third. I would have given this to Jason Hayward any day of the week. That's 100% biased. I don't care what anybody says. I would have given him number 6 right there. Jason Hayward's defense, and we've seen it all year, is absolutely amazing. But congrats to all the Gold Glove winners. And then in the National League, I want to go over this real quick. MVP finalist as of right now is Javier Baez, Christian Yelich, and Nolan Arenado. 3 guys that deserve it. That could go either way. I want to see Javi win the MVP. I feel like Arenado and Yelich he's going to have a struggle with. But like you said, Yelich didn't come on to the second half of the year. Arenado and Javi were hot all season.
Yep.
So those are my 2 finalists right there. I would give it to Javi because I'm a Cubs fan, but you can't discredit Nolan Arenado and what he does in Colorado.
Can we talk about the Indians wanting to move Kluber out of Cleveland?
They move out of Cleveland. I'm probably never going to watch American League Baseball ever again. Ever.
Really?
No.
There's no point.
No point. Stay in Cleveland. Stay in the fan. Cleveland's got a fan base. The Indians' fan base is unreal. And even with the World Series run they had, they didn't win it, and they're still sticking with this team. Cleveland sports in general. Cleveland as a city sticks with their teams.
That's one thing I'll never understand. There are dog trash in everything, and there are still fans filling up that stadium every week in every sport.
Browns, terrible. The dog pound. They don't deserve what they're getting done to them. Full every week.
Yep.
Cleveland, the Cavs, bad.
Well,
yikes.
You had LeBron James, and then every other year since Jim Brown has been awful.
Yeah.
So there you go. Abysmal this season. Still
The
selling
Blue
out.
Jackets. When was the last time they won 40 games in a season?
Long time ago.
Yeah.
I will say, though, they have one of the top players in the league in Panarin.
Yes.
The bread
agreed.
man. That helps a little
Now,
bit.
but
They also had Rick Nash, too, back when we were growing up, so that doesn't make sense. And then you got, who else am I missing? The Indians. The Indians in general.
Well,
they're
they'll
win their
hold
division
on.
every year.
Yeah.
But
They'll
to
hold
play
on to those division pennants. They'll hold on to the AL pennant they got in 2016. And I tell you what, they'll be talking about that 2016 NBA Finals championship for the next 100 years, as long as Cleveland has a sports team. But man, that's
Stay
just
in Cleveland.
crazy. Just stay.
Stay in Cleveland.
Stay. Yeah.
Do you? I mean, what are your thoughts?
No, they're loyal. I agreed with you guys. I just wanted to hear it from someone else.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
If somebody disagrees with me on that, I'm going to be really upset. That's what
Well, then, I mean, that's just MLB history, too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Because they've been there since, what, the 40s?
I think the
Long
40s.
time.
40s,
I believe the 40s, yeah.
That's just like...
Because their losing streak was at, 78 years?
Yeah.
2 years ago when they were in the World Series. So,
They have now the longest active besides...
in
since
all
the Cubs won.
sports, since the Cubs won, they have the longest active no-title streak.
It's up to 80 now, right?
Yeah, it sounds
80
right.
years, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
8 decades. Can you imagine
Well,
that?
the Cubs went 10.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at least you guys went to the World Series.
Speaking of that, the Cubs are going to mess this all up. What we have going right now, they're going to mess this up. 100% agreed. We're going to go through this decade of the best. Me and you have gotten to live through the best decade of Cubs baseball ever. My dad's going to argue with me on that because we had Banks, Santo, Billy Williams, all them guys.
Yeah, but they didn't
win. They didn't win any trophies.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, we're going to go through the best decade of Cubs baseball with one goddamn World Series. Explain that to me. What is going on with that? We're going to miss out on Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. We're no longer favorites to get Harper. We're going to miss out on both of them guys because we can't afford them. Because Theo won't sign a check. Open that pocketbook, cuz he signed some paychecks. Honestly. And then, I don't know, man. I just don't understand it. We're going to go through this 10-year span with Theo Epstein, the greatest Cubs teams that we're going to see, arguably, of our generation, the greatest Cubs teams of our generation, and we're going to win one goddamn World Series.
You could look at it as one is better than none, but
Yes.
No, with this team, I ain't looking at
Yes,
it that way.
one is better than none, but why
Okay.
get one when you can get 8?
You're on the outside looking in. You watch the Cubs because we're Cubs fans. What do you think?
well, I also watch the Cubs because when they do well, I'm in Illinois. It's kind of hard to not
Absolutely.
follow.
But
them.
you're a Blue Jays fan
Absolutely.
when
And,
it comes to baseball. So
Yeah.
you're on the outside looking in. What do you think?
I mean, you pretty much hit everything on the head. But if it was me, and I mean, my team has been terrible this season, so. I mean, I look at it as if I can get a ring, but I understand what you're saying. With the amount of talent that you guys have, you always want more.
Yeah.
And I get that. But there's no reason why you shouldn't just be able to keep this core together and compete. And I know you just don't want to compete. You want to win. You want to crush people. But that's every fan base that has a decent amount of talent that's capable of doing so. And I see this in every sport. You know, so I mean, like I see the Golden State Warriors as an example. They're not going to keep that together forever, but I understand they went out of their way to get Kevin Durant. They went out of their way to get DeMarcus Cousins. They went out of their way to pay their superstars and keep them on this roster. So I understand what you're saying, but like you said, and you've told me before, baseball is a little different. You got to be willing because there is no amount of money that you can't pay.
Blake checks, cuz.
Exactly. So
With all these cable deals that everybody has, with all this ticket, it's $9.50 for a Miller Lite in Chicago. Think about that. All that money that they're making off of that. Off of ticket sales, off of this cable, off of the cable sales. Think about that. All that money. We have one of the best fan bases and one of the oldest fan bases with the most money, and we are number one in payroll. I understand that. Sign it, cuzzy.
I actually have something real quick before we say anything else. Bryce Harper rejected the biggest offer from the Nationals just now today. They gave him the biggest deal they could possibly come up with, and he said no. So he's walking away with it. So that tells me and everyone else that he wants to win.
Okay, so before we end today, I got one last thing I'm
Sure.
going to end this on. Bryce Harper. He is 24, I believe, 24 years old.
Somewhere in there.
What he needs to do is he needs to sign a 3-year deal. 3-year deal that he can get the most money out of. You know why he needs to sign that? Because he'll be a free agent again by the time he's 30. And he can get another max deal.
And that one he can sign for 6 years.
6 years.
8 years before he gets old.
Right off into the sunset.
Yep.
With a healthy bank account.
Yep.
He needs to sign no matter where it is.
But No one's going to offer him that.
No,
Everyone's trying to lock him up for the next decade.
You know the only team that I feel like will offer him a 3-year deal like that?
Cubs.
The Chicago Cubs, because we're the only ones that... Theo has one of the best baseball minds in the game right now. He's the only one that understands that. He signs Harper for 3 years. We have 3 years of Bryce Harper. We have 3 years of potentially winning 3 championships.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the thing. We win 3 championships in the next 5 to 7 years. I'll be okay with sucking for the next 20. Because I can say, well, me and you, Tyson, we're in our 20s, Gavin, we won like 4 championships. I'll agree with that.
But what guy at 24, 25 years old is going to say, yeah, I'll take that $100 million contract over this $350 million contract for 10 years?
If Harper and his agent are smart about this.
Right. You got to realize that's $34 million a year.
I know that.
At 3 years. That's a lot of money. That's more than anyone else is getting paid. That's outrageous. Whereas if you go with the long-term deal, you actually, it's pretty basic math once you look at it, but it's hard to look at it that way when everything in sports is unsure.
Yep.
In 3 years, he might be trash. Who knows? I highly, highly doubt it. But you never know. Sharif Floyd from the Vikings, he was one of the best defensive edge rushers that we had when he got drafted in 2013. He's now suing for $180 million because his career ended because of a surgery.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you never know. Very unsure. Now, that's an extreme circumstance. He had a surgery that ended his stuff, but you never know. It's very hard for a young guy to pass up on a lot of money for a long time.
The thing is that it's possible, and that's what it comes down to. If there's a will, there's a way, and it could happen to anybody. And I think financial stability and security.
He's already got that.
But that's what I'm saying. When you can make it, take it. And I think that's across any sport.
See, here's the thing that's going to play into his advantage is he does not have a World Series ring, correct?
This is true.
He signs a 3-year deal with Chicago or whoever. He goes somewhere where he knows that he's going to get a trophy. He's not going to get hurt. You can't, as an athlete, you can't think about that stuff. It's there. It's in the back of your mind. But as an athlete, I understand what you're saying. But he signs that 3-year deal, gets a ring, goes after that max contract for 8 years, 10 years. He's set for life. He's got his ring. He's got his trophy. And he's got his money.
Well, and that's the thing is, if he believes he can win 1, 2, maybe even 3 within that time span, I mean, who's to say that you gave up money for a short amount of time, and then after that, you can go off and have solo stats and go play for whoever the hell you want and make $300, $400 million.
So Bryce Harper, the odds of you listening to this are 1 in 37 trillion. But I have a 2016 World Series Chicago Cubs hat on right now. It's getting a little dirty. I need one that says 2019 on it. 2019. Just a little heads up.
Well, and if this does happen, and I know this is very, very unlikely, but there's another Chicago team that's in the running for
both of them,
Machado and Bryce Harper. They have the money they have the second lowest payroll in the MLB, and they have the most money that they can hand out to players.
The White Sox are now they're in the situation the Cubs were when Bryant was Russell was coming up and Baez. They're there. They just got to execute properly like Theo did, but they've got it. They're there.
Yeah, and it's very possible.
Pull the right guys up at the right time, sign the right big names to give you a little bump.
Pulling Mancada up first with Abreu was the best decision they've made since 2005 when they won the World Series.
Yep.
And can I just say one more thing before we close out? I am excited as hell to see Guerrero Jr. next year in the Blue Jays uniform.
Oh, Vladdy Guerrero.
I am stoked.
That dude's gonna be putting holes in your guys' roof up there.
I am stoked. I just watched his highlight tape. It was like 12 minutes long of him just launching bomb after bomb. And I've never been more excited to play the Red Sox or the Yankees next year because I can't wait to see him go off.
I'd still be kind of concerned about playing the Red Sox, in my opinion.
Here's the thing: is I don't expect to win the division, but if we can, win at least half the games or maybe a third of the games against those guys, that'll just make me happy.
I'd like to see them take third this upcoming year.
They should.
Tampa Bay for that spot.
They should. I think next year they'll be better than Tampa Bay.
Vladdy Guerrero's the spark they need.
Absolutely. No, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And
I'm pretty sure they'll still beat the Orioles.
Oh yeah,
the Orioles are still a dumpster fire. All right. Tell you what, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up there. You guys got anything else to add?
Nah, man, we've been sitting here talking for a while.
All right, let's go ahead and end it there. If you like what you heard, make sure to drop us a like, rating, comment in the box below. Also, make sure to hit that big red subscribe button and hit the bell icon next to it so you never miss a beat. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media page on Twitter at @sports_twin. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble, so why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's start the fireworks, stand back and enjoy it. Oh, oh.